It's
Hello everyone and welcome to our Academy Takeover Day 2. We are taking over the National Space Centre's social media for the week. We have taken control. This is our second day. My name is Nat. I'm from the National Space Academy and I'm here today with Dr. Lewis Campbell. He is an expert in UK vertical launch. Hi Lewis, how are you doing today?
Hi there, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good, glad to hear it. So I was wondering if you could start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you work for.
Yes, absolutely, not a problem. What I'll do, I'll share the screen just here. Okay, so like I said, my name is Lewis Campbell. I'm the systems engineer here for Skyrora, one of a fantastic set of team trying to put the UK back into space. So my role generally revolves around conducting the test and the site operations for a number of the facilities that we have, whether it be our test site, whether it be our launch site, anything that involves a particular event or a milestone, such as a static fire or an engine test, I will have the coordination for that. So conducting with our team, with our number of engineers to actually carry out the test successfully and safely. A bit about my background as well. I'm an aeronautical engineer by trade from the University of Glasgow. I've got a little bit of a differing background from military through to some rocket developments out in Texas as well. I've also had a bit of experience with experimental aerodynamics also, so I think there may be some questions on that a little bit later to get stuck into. So, who we are. So Skyrora is based on the backbone of British innovation. So throughout the development of UK launch capability back through the 60s and 70s, we had a number of launch vehicles stepping up to the Black Arrow, the famous launcher which launched from Woomera down in Australia in 1973. However, the UK are currently the only launch provider nation in the world to have a launch capability and then give it up. However, we base our backbone and our technology and our systems architecture off of the tremendous Black Arrow launch vehicle, using its propellant combination of high test peroxide and kerosene. And we are doing this and using this to put the UK back into space again. So we develop a number of launch vehicles in a setup process, and where we do it are through our launch locations here. So our test locations rather. So we have our main workshop in Edinburgh in Lone Head. We also have our headquarters. This is where we are based. We also have a number of facilities across the UK and Europe as well. We have in Slovakia and Ukraine as well. So we take a slightly different approach to our launch vehicle development. Instead of moving and progressing on to the final launch vehicle, we actually start with an incremental approach. We call it a de-risking approach. This is starting from smaller launch vehicles, increasing in difficulty, launch operation scale and complexity over time, up to our commercial class launcher Skyrora XL. The reason for this is we get to develop a lot of our secondary capabilities up until launch. We also get to prove our technology time and time again. We also get to have a public face in our launch as well. The community and the nation can get involved in our developmental milestones at every stage. They can get involved in our launches, our engine tests, and we release them very frequently as well. So out of our vehicle fleet of 5, we are currently past 3 for the moment, and we are looking to launch our Skylark L launch vehicle, which was recently static test fired at the start of 2020, the first time a test fire of that scale was conducted in the UK in over 50 years, hoping to do that this year. Additionally, we've got a number of developmental milestones for our commercial class launcher, Skyrora XL. We've just static test fired the upper stage of the launch vehicle, the 3rd stage, just at the tail end of 2020 there. And we're hoping to move that further into 2021 with more stage testing, more firing, more launch vehicle developments. It's all moving and going here at Skyrora. So just back to that static test fire, this was conducted in Kildamore. The size and scale of this operation was completely unprecedented. and this occurred in UK soil. This was the first ground rocket test in 50 years. This is a huge milestone for ourselves, a huge milestone for the UK launch capability in total, and it's just the start. We hope to move on and develop our capabilities as time goes on to achieve the launch of Skyrora XL. Just spoken before with regards to the actual final static stage fire of the third stage. This was conducted at our engine test site. This was done with a very dynamic time frame as well, and conducted just prior to the end of 2020 occurring as well. So dealing with the cold, harsh, bitter weather in Scotland, which we're very much used to. Present challenges. However, we managed to pull off the test without a hitch. Extremely successful, first one of its kind to be conducted in the UK, and a huge developmental milestone to move on to 2021 with this in the rearview mirror, moving on to our future testing in the UK. Very, very exciting. So one of the key elements of Skyrora are an Earth-centered company. We get to space sustainably. That's the key unique selling point for how we operate. And the main method by which we do this is not only in our developmental techniques, but in our fuel ourselves, our propellant combination, the lifeblood of our vehicle. We use Ecosync, which is developed from recycled waste plastics, ones that you can't normally recycle and usually go to a landfill. It's developed using a number of techniques, and as a result, we have physically tested our engines on this fuel, and we can see that when combined with high test peroxide, our oxidizer, it results in about 45% less CO2 production per test, which is a huge milestone for actually getting to space sustainably. That's the key part that we try to push forward there. So we develop a space launcher. Where do we actually launch from? Now, of course, the UK has had a huge upsurge in launch interest and capability. There are currently 3 vertical launch sites planned for the UK up in the north. So you have Sutherland, Shetland, and Spaceport 1 out in the Isles. However, there are other European launch capabilities as well. You have Sweden, we have Iceland, we have Portugal areas as well. So there really is, and because of our modular launch complex and our developmental approach, we can have a global launch capability. We can launch from anywhere, which is a truly unique thing about ourselves. So that's a quick overview as to what I do and what I get up to here at Skyrora and where we are going as well as a company as a whole.
That's great, thank you so much. So we've had quite a lot of questions, interestingly, all about the sustainability in the future of space. So quite a few of our space engineers have wanted to know quite a lot about it. So Tom has asked, how will the future of aviation become more sustainable, and what will it take for a carbon neutral aerospace industry? So you've touched on what you do. What do you think about as an industry for the whole?
So great question. Aerospace as a whole has a variety of targets to it, driving down the carbon emissions as an industry. It's very large in terms of its emission production. So companies have a social responsibility to reduce that wherever possible. I believe that through optimization, we can get so far. We can improve our technologies a little bit and reduce that margin for our carbon production. However, it's the innovations which really drive sectors forward. So for instance, Ecosync is a huge innovation for the space launch sector itself. That final stage in getting customers' payloads to orbit, doing so sustainably, is a massive decrease in carbon emission production as a whole. So it's the innovations which are going to be key to actually reducing that.
I just, everything you talked about, it just I get so excited. I think launching from the UK is just absolutely fantastic. It must be so interesting what you do all the time, really exciting. So Barney has asked, what can we expect from the UK space industry in the near future?
So the UK space industry is an exciting place to be. At the moment, it is very much a rising tide in terms of its sectors. For satellites, we've always had a very large stronghold over the satellite market. It's often said, and it's often not well known, that Glasgow actually produces more satellites than nearly anywhere else in the world outside of California. So for individuals wanting to get into satellite markets, there's a wealth of that there. And Edinburgh is known as the space data capital of Europe as well. So for the downstream markets, if individuals were to get involved in that, that's certainly the place to be. For launch, however, this is where it's all happening. This is where there's a lot of developments going on. There was a recent consultation for the Space Industry Act earlier this year. So that's given launch companies an opportunity to take a look at the regulations which are coming out in the near future to enable launch from the UK to happen, as well as the developments for UK spaceports nationally as well. So a lot more developments happening, and it's definitely in creation mode. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more in the next year, certainly from ourselves to develop, and I'm interested to see the developments of spaceports going forward also.
Great, thank you. We've had a question come through in the comments. So Dion has asked us, are reusable single-stage rockets possibly in the future?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, sure. So Dion wants to know, are reusable single-stage rockets possibly the future, do you think?
Reusable single-stage rockets. So it's a very interesting question, absolutely. And I'm sure the individual who asked this question may or may not know about what's called the Tsiolkovsky's rocket equation. It's often the bane of a rocket engineer's life, trying to get around the equation. It's often accounted for, and it's often worked around by using staging on rockets to deal with the mass fractions of launch, dropping out that dead weight as you fly to space. The rocket equation, it's called tyrannical in a sense because it often restricts the ability for single-stage orbit vehicles to exist. So for space planes, however, there is innovations coming all the time. There's new engines, new propulsion capabilities. So I'm certain that we can see developments on that in the near future, absolutely. For now, though, take a look at the rocket equation, and that will probably tell you why.
Great, thank you. And thank you for your question, Dion. Just a reminder that you can put questions in the comments if you have any for Lewis. So we've discussed quite a lot about your company and what you do and what your aims are, but what about you yourself? How did you get into this position? How did you get this role?
Yeah, so absolutely. My background and interest in space is a little bit of an interesting one. It actually happened at a singular point. A lot of people have passions that develop over time and they learn more. Mine happened like a switch. It really clicked like that. So my dad has a background in video game development, so I was always a little bit more techie as a kid. I was always into programming, into video game development as well, and originally I thought that was my career path. I also was involved in graphic design and art as well, and my favorite series of films is always films from Pixar, so I thought I could combine the both of them, be a programmer for Pixar, and that was my career path, and that's what I was wanting to go down. However, it came at a point when I was younger that I went to go and watch a talk by a real-life astronaut trainer, Michelle Lucas, and she often described it as training the untrainable. How do you allow for rehearsing, preparing, working in extreme environments under pressure, at the pinnacle of human achievement for something which for new flights has never been done before? That to me was truly captivating, and I walked in wanting to be some sort of programmer for Pixar, and I walked out wanting to be an aerospace engineer. It was really transformational from that moment. So looking into it further, I had to pursue a career in aerospace. I wanted to pursue a career in aviation as well, so joined the University Air Squadron at the University of Glasgow, and that piqued my interest in aviation further. Started a couple of rocket teams in Glasgow also, and that's what really got me inspired into space. So yeah, and this has led me to where I am now.
It seems to be quite a common theme that people tend to maybe not start off with this as their plan, but end up there. And I think a lot of young people are often scared of making perhaps the wrong decision. What piece of advice would you give to a young person who at the minute thinks they do want to enter into the space sector?
So the thing about the space sector, it's very exciting. It's changing all the time. So having doubts about roles or jobs or careers that don't exist yet for space is actually not such a bad thing. When I wanted to get involved in satellites are fantastic and data is fantastic, but I wanted to get involved in rockets specifically. When I wanted to do that, there were no rocket companies in the UK, and the ones that were very well developed previously. So there was no dynamic companies that wanted to do that. And then along came Skyrora, who very quickly grew to be a leader in this field. So the key to this is perseverance. It will lead you along the way, and having a passion as well. The first qualification you need in anything is to have a passion. So as long as you have a passion, you cannot go wrong with that. And perseverance and passion will result in a plan. Make a plan and stick to it. So don't concern yourself with thinking that you're making wrong decisions. If you've thought about it and you've got the drive to make it happen, absolutely, that's all you can do.
That's a great answer. Thank you very much. So Henry has asked us in the comments, what advice would you give for students trying to get into space companies like Skyrora specifically?
Yep, so for getting involved in the space industry in any company, not just Skyrora, you have to demonstrate the capabilities of the role, the minimum requirements, that's a key thing. But over and above that, you have to demonstrate the key attributes that you have, both technically and according to the role, and as a person as well, developing yourself. So the key thing I always say to individuals is, if you want to get involved in space, do things extracurricularly that tailor towards your chosen field. Research something. There's no wasted effort with that whatsoever. Join rocket clubs in schools and universities, and if you don't join one, make one. That's not there. It's really not difficult to get into, and learn that way. Learn yourself, and doing that will develop you as a person. Get involved in things that are pushing you out with your comfort zone as well. That will develop you and round you as a person also. So having that extracurricular passion and all the other stuff, not just your degree, all the other stuff that you get involved in, that's really what makes you stand out amongst everyone else.
Great, thank you. So another question we've had from one of our space engineers, Evan, has asked, what qualifications do you need to get to be where you are?
So for my role specifically, you need a degree in a STEM subject. It can be involved in any of the disciplines, however, preferably engineering is involved. So I'm an aeronautical engineer by trade. We have a number of mechanical engineers for our Ecosync developments. It's chemical engineering as well. The application of engineering is also always very important. However, for any role in the space industry, you would generally want to look to have either a STEM degree or extracurricular applications to those degrees as well. So getting involved in media, relations, communications, economics is all very important too. However, my position specifically, STEM degree. Getting involved in that, getting involved with National Space Centre, all of these initiatives, that will stand you in good stead to achieve a role in the space industry.
Great, thank you. And we're just going to kind of go back a little bit to more generally in UK space sector. So what do you think is the most important things we need to be doing as a nation at the minute to be at the forefront, at the leading edge of space exploration? So the key thing with space, it's a changing environment. There are a lot of key players
in development as well, and the market, whilst it's rising, is there to be taken. It's there to be used and utilised. So the UK and the private companies that support space in terms of its sector and its endeavours have to push hard on absolutely everything for development of technologies to enable space, for the regulations and the governmental allowances to enable the technologies to actually take place. Everything has to be continually pushed on and developed and worked on. The UK is in a not only a geographical advantageous point, but a nation a very advantageous point in terms of its heritage and its technology. So it's taking advantage of these backgrounds that we have, using that to actually become a fortuitous nation throughout the UK, Europe, and internationally.
And that leads quite nicely into a question that we've had in the comments. So Brady's asked, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges to growth for the sector in the UK?
So a couple of big challenges that we have is allowing for a regulatory environment to take place. The Space Industry Act is being developed as we speak, and is I think due to go out shortly. And so a lot of the regulations that are being developed are new to the UK. We've never launched from the UK before, so how do we actually do that and achieve that nation? And how do we do that in cooperation with private companies and government companies as well? That's a key thing to try and achieve. Building up the space ecosystem around launch as well is very important as well. Skyrora, we have our main mottos for doing that sustainably throughout the UK. So how do we achieve the ecosystem? How do we achieve a development in the sector that is also sustainable as well? That's a key challenge to actually developing launch as a whole.
Great, thank you. And we've been asked, one of our space engineers has asked, how long does the development process generally take? So if you wanted to get a satellite into space, how long would it take to go through the development and testing stages for that?
Okay, so if you were the CEO of your own space company and you wanted to build a rocket, develop it, get it to space, okay, understood. So the first thing is understanding who you're launching and what you're launching for, where you're going to. So that is some key things that need to be understood, and then you would generally form the systems engineering life cycle, which is something which is internationally adopted. ESA use it, NASA use it, ourselves we use it as well. It is the developmental life cycle to take something from an idea, a mission concept, through to the requirements, the design, the development, testing, and then the actual operations itself. For launchers, that can take anywhere between 5 years to 15 years. If you have the governmental juggernaut of Apollo and the Apollo eras, you can get people to the moon before the end of a decade, as John F. Kennedy famously said. However, for launch vehicle developers such as ourselves, doing things a lot faster and using a lot more versatile techniques is very important, getting to market a bit quicker as well. So your range is on the odds of about 5 years to longer than that for full development. However, it depends on what you actually want to build and launch.
So say you've developed your satellite, you're ready to launch it. Why the UK?
Why the UK? So the UK is a fantastic place to launch from. It's geographically advantageous, to say the least, from the north of Scotland. And this is for vertical launch capability specifically. I won't comment on horizontal, but from the north of Scotland, where the vertical spaceports are, we can achieve polar and sun synchronous orbit capabilities. So for Earth observation, for imaging, for any of these applications of the satellite, that is possible. Secondly, we have a network of satellite developers as well, who can actually build these satellites centralised around Glasgow and Edinburgh. And now we're bringing on this launch capability as well. So there's a good sector to launch from. It's a local sector, internationally speaking, and we also have that geographical advantage too, which not many countries actually have.
So my colleagues have been asking me to ask you this question. Does that mean that we can come and see a launch when they are ready to go?
I certainly will. Firstly, we'll have to see where we launch from. That will be a key development throughout this year and next. I certainly know that launches will be heavily publicised for sure. It will be exciting, it will be big. Regardless of whether we're able to have people there or not, you will know about it, you'll see it in full action. It will be fantastic. So absolutely, we'll have exposure of that no matter where you are.
Thank you so much. It seems so exciting, all of the future for the UK space industry at the minute, especially. It seems to be really developing at the minute. I think it's a really good time for young people to get into the space sector. So just to finish up then, I know I asked you for your one piece of advice, but could you just summarise what do you think you would say to a young person who wanted to work in the space sector?
Absolutely. Follow your passion. Find a passion if you don't have one, and follow it. There's no point in doing an endeavour that you don't have a passion for, because the passion is the drive that gets you through the hard times, and there's hard times in any role. So do your research, have a passion, and then make a plan as well. Make a plan on how you're going to get into the sector and follow it through, because that is the key message that you can take and can apply to absolutely any part of the sector, no matter where you are.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis Campbell, for your time today. That's a lovely note to end our interview on. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you very much for your time.
No worries. And thank you all for watching. Remember, you can see more of these Q&As all week. We are taking over the National Space Centre's social media, so you can find us on the National Space Centre YouTube channel. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with National Space Academy on Twitter at UK Space Academy, or you can go to our website, nationalspaceacademy.org, where you can find a form to contact us. Once again, thank you very much, and thank you, Lewis.